Okay, so we were talking about the organophosphates in the last lecture, trying to look at ways we deal with pests by using different types of pesticides. Again, Roundup, most commonly used herbicide to kill plants. Concerns about the dangers to workers, the lethality, the potential for cancer. Some major lawsuits going on right now that not clear what's going to come out of this, but people looking at links between prostate cancer, leukemia, etc., to exposure to Roundup. So things to be very aware of. Now, the advantage, here's the positive of Roundup or glyphosate, and I'll put that name up here in a minute. The good news with this stuff, when you use it, it actually will degrade, and it does not, let me capitalize that, not persist in the environment. So it breaks down after it's been used. So you spray it on your weeds, the weeds pull it in, they absorb it, they hopefully die, and then you don't have to worry about this stuff sitting in the environment. At least that's the indication, the information right now. The concern is, resistance. Plants are developing resistance. Weeds are developing resistance to Roundup. So we have to figure out how do we come up with a Roundup 2.0, et cetera, et cetera. So the key ingredient in Roundup, what we really want to focus on, is a stuff called glyphosate. Okay, that is the stuff. So Roundup is the trade name that most people might be more familiar with, but glyphosate is the actual stuff. That is the chemical, the active ingredient that you're looking at. So you can buy stuff called Big Tough Weed Killer. It's got glyphosate in it. It's basically a generic version of Roundup. Again, most people hear Roundup, they're familiar with what that stuff is. All right, so that's one variety of pesticide. It's the organophosphate that we see used in not just agriculture, but hey, I got weeds in my driveway, I'm going to get some Roundup and kill it. Used in home applications all the time. The next one to take a look at will be, actually, let me back this up. Here's a map. Here's the estimated glyphosate use for 2014. I couldn't find a more updated one. If anybody happens to find one, please, I'd love to see it, and let's share it with the class. But you look at how many pounds per square mile are used. And you look at Illinois, we are over 88 pounds of this. Look at the map, and I want you guys to think about the distribution of color here. Why do we see this pattern? Connect that to agriculture. Why is there that big strip in California there? That big strip along the coastline of dark brown showing large amounts of glyphosate being used. It's all tied to agriculture. So, all right, so the next group of pesticides, kind of the next category, is what we call the chlorinated hydrocarbons. So these things are going to be fast-acting and highly toxic. So that's good news. This stuff kills things quickly. So it's crazy. If you look at a bottle of pesticide, whether it's for insects, fungi, weeds, etc., there's different ratings. Like kill stuff, really kills stuff, scary how bad it kills stuff, and they'll have little symbols on there. When you see a skull and crossbone, that means this stuff's crazy lethal. That's stuff you got to be careful with. You don't want to be spraying it and having it drifting back into your face, the wind blowing it into you, cleaning out the sprayer and it's on your hands. You got to be really careful with this stuff, guys. It is very problematic and very lethal. The chlorinated hydrocarbons. The big concerns here, these are persistent. and they can concentrate in the food chain. So we spray this stuff. Let me spell this right. Persistent. We spray this stuff and it kills things, but it doesn't go away. It does biomagnification. Hopefully that's a very familiar term or something you guys remember hearing. And it doesn't go away. And it can build up and build up and build up. Again, it's very effective. It's lethal very quickly. Some of these things are scary where you spray it on the field, you spray it on the weeds, and within a half an hour, the weeds are dying. Roundup, it's probably going to take 2 or 3 days to really see the effect of Roundup. But some of these other things, man, they're just scary. So the big active ingredient that we want to focus on here when we're looking at, oh, let me get into the right spot. When we get into these is atrazine. Atrazine is one of the main ingredients. Let's see if I can't do it. I was going to highlight atrazine. Atrazine is a major chlorinated hydrocarbon that's used in agriculture. And what scares us is when wells have been tested, community wells, 30% of them have had or have traces of atrazine. 60% of private wells tested contain atrazine. Again, look at the distribution map, the pounds of atrazine per mile. We don't use the same amount of atrazine as we do with glyphosate, but it's still there and it persists and can persist and can persist. Illinois, solid red. Not just us, but Indiana, Iowa, Missouri, parts of Missouri, Nebraska, Ohio, agricultural industry. The agricultural areas, atrazine is commonly used. So when we talk about magnification of the food chain and toxicity, think about the amphibians. What is the connection to those guys? You know, we're seeing some of the concerns we see with atrazine use, and it's hard to say this is the only thing causing a problem, but one of the factors when we look at atrazine use, it's had a decrease in amphibian populations. Let me change the font size here. So we've seen those guys go down. They're too small. Seen the amphibian populations decrease. Strong evidence it's in connection with atrazine use. Again, not the only thing, but a contributing factor. And let's bring it home to us. Decreased sperm count in humans and, different types of cancers are being linked to atrazine in our water. So, challenge. You know, we're drinking it, it's in our water, it's in the food supply. How do we minimize our exposure to it is the key. We're not going to ever get rid of this stuff, but can we minimize our exposure? So, all right, let's go into our next grouping of pesticides. Neonic, I'm not even going to try to say it. You guys pronounce it. The nasty pesticides. Neonicotinoids, if we want to call it that. This group of pesticides is the most widespread global pesticide. So when we look at globally, this is the one that we see the largest usage globally when we talk about pesticides. This will disrupt the central nervous system. That's what CNS stands for, central nervous system of insects. So that's good news. Oh, we spray this, it wipes out the neural system, the brain, if they have them, the central nervous system of insects. Get rid of those Japanese beetles that are eating my corn. The problem is when we use it, it can transfer through the pollen and fruit. So the bees pick it up. But the bees weren't around when I was spraying it. I was trying to get rid of Japanese beetles. But then it gets into the plant, and the plants bring it up. It's into their pollen. The bees pick up the pollen. Now the bees die. It's embedded into the fruit. Oh, I like that apple. Well, does that apple have this pesticide in it? That's the scary part. So, again, problematic. We just don't know the ripple effect of this. Is this killing birds? What about all those other animals that eat the fruits? The animals that eat the insects that pick up this stuff? That's a concern. Honeybees have struggled a lot. This is a contributing factor. It's not the only one, but it's one of the factors that is contributing to honeybee populations declining and bees going on the certain bee species going on the endangered species list. So, all right, let's tackle another one, the fumigants. So fumigants are small molecules that can penetrate the soil or other materials. So we spray this stuff to often kill fungus. We call it a fumigant because we're fumigating. If you've ever had a house fumigated for roaches or mites or whatever, same idea. So check out the fumigation system down here. What they're doing is they cover the soil. They cut open the soil where they're going to plant the crops. They cover it up, and then they pump all this smoke, basically fumes, into there to try to destroy the soil microorganisms that could cause problems. Basically, a lot of the fungus that would live in the soil that could cause problems for the crops. So you're whacking out the good ones with the bad ones. One of the worst fruits to eat because of this are strawberries. Strawberries are usually number one on the dirty dozen list of pesticide-containing foods because of how we grow them commercially. Get them from a local grower, get them from a farmer's market, get them from your backyard. Could be very, very different. But large commercial strawberry farms, they're fumigating their strawberries to try to kill the fungus, so that way when the strawberries sit in your refrigerator, they don't get mold very quickly. They still get it, so it's not 100% effective. It just takes a lot longer for that fungus to grow because the fumigation has whacked out most of the fungal spores. So that's a huge issue. Oh, I want strawberries that look great, but I'm eating this pesticide to make it look great. Is it worth it in the long run for our health? So what we're trying to do is encourage more people to shift over and look at alternatives to this. Are there alternatives? Those are the natural organic pesticides. But we do have inorganic pesticides. These scary, scary stuff. Try to avoid these at all costs. Using them, buying products that grow based upon them. What you're basically doing is finding some toxic element like mercury or arsenic to kill pests. So you're using mercury, arsenic, stuff like that to kill pests. What do you think that's doing when we consume it? That's the crazy thing. Most of these are nerve agents that disrupt the neural systems. And a big problem is that they're often very persistent. They are going to be around for a long time in the environment. So again, you use inorganic pesticides. That's around for a long, long time. Organic, natural organic, are often plant compounds that can deter or kill pests. Much safer, a lot better. Toxic to the insects, but not to us usually.